Hi, everyone. I'm Gold Derby News and Features Editor Ray Richmond, and I'm here today with two of the executive producers of the Emmy nominated Amazon Freevee comedy series Jury Duty, Cody Heller and Nick Hatton. Before we get started, just a quick description of the 8 episode Jury Duty. It tossed a real person named Ronald Gladden into the middle of what he presumed was a real jury trial, but the case was in fact fake. He didn't know everyone surrounding him was an actor. Hilarity ensued, but hopefully not at his expense. Cody, let's start with you. I've seen you talk about how this was never cast as a prank show, but hopefully more of a hero's journey with laughs. Did you ever fear that while everyone did their job because it streamed on the little known Freevee service, no one was ever going to see it?
Absolutely. Honestly, my biggest fear was, it was kind of a blessing and a curse because it was such a crazy experimental undertaking that there were moments where I was like, okay, well, if this all blows up and fails, at least no one will probably see it because it's on Freevee. So, but then once we finished it and we were also proud of the work that we had done and what the final product was, I was like, oh man, I hope people watch it. So yeah.
So, Cody, in your wildest dreams, as showrunner of this show, could you have ever predicted that this little experiment in stealth comedy would emerge with 4 Emmy nominations, including one for Outstanding Comedy Series and another for Supporting Actor for James Marsden?
Could never ever have imagined it. No, absolutely not.
Crazy. Nick, is someone who worked with Sacha Baron Cohen on Borat, subsequent movie film, and on the Showtime series Who is America? You were used to crazy subterfuge gambits like this one, which is sort of The Office meets the Truman Show. Did you live in constant fear that this could all go south at any moment?
Yes, absolutely. Every single second of the day, whether I was awake or having night terrors about it. Yeah, it was comparing it to some of the other stuff that I've done before. I think it's both harder and easier. Easier in that, you know, to your point, as you say at the top, we always wanted Ronald to have an amazing experience and for him to never feel like he was the butt of the joke or we were sort of punishing him in any kind of way or making him feel uncomfortable. So it's easier in that it's less likely that you'll sort of have volatile situations or really negative reactions. It's harder in that we created an entirely fake world for him for 3 weeks, for every single breath that he took over the course of those 3 weeks. And that is a logistical undertaking that I don't think anyone had pulled off, at least successfully before. So that was the terrifying thing, knowing that it was a bit like a Jenga tower, that you can be doing really, really well, and 2.5 weeks in, you have this incredibly high tower, but one false move and the whole thing comes down on the last day. And that was the sort of the persistent fear whilst making this thing.
Yeah, it was like Jenga. I didn't even think of that, but you're right. One little move and boom, the whole house of cards tumbles. Um,
Mm-hmm.
Ronald Gladden actually believed, Nick, that you were the courthouse security guard you were posing as. Um, how did it feel to completely betray this man's trust?
Well, technically, I was an administrative clerk, so I always had a clipboard with me, and it mainly said "Don't mess up" as a note to myself. And truthfully, the reason I wanted to do that is that we had the control room, which was in the middle of everything, where everyone stayed hunkered down and completely private. But I just liked every morning to kind of just put my eyes on him and see how he was and see what sort of energies he had in the morning. And again, his well-being was always the most important thing. And it was very surreal always being down there and saying good morning to him in my fake American accent and hoping that I managed to not mess up those 3 words in a fake American accent. And so when I revealed my Britishness to him on the final day, I think that was possibly the most distressing thing he had to go through.
I always imagined that he thought, you know what, this seems so much like a reality show. This has to be a reality show. How could it not be a reality show? But even if he thought that, so what? I mean, it was clearly, he was clearly in the middle of something extraordinary and crazy, and he seemed to be running with it no matter what. But
Cody, do you want to speak
Cody,
to that one?
yeah,
Yeah.
no, yeah,
Oh,
Cody,
God.
you want to speak to that?
No, I would just say, like, I think, there was that moment where the first time where he turns to James and goes, this feels like a fucking reality show. And I I literally, I mean, Nick was there. I crawled under the desk. It was like, it's over, it's done for. And then the more I thought about it, I was like, wait, but I don't think he meant it like that. I think he meant this is a lot of wild stuff is happening here. And also the fact that he was saying it to James meant that he in no way suspected what was really going on, which was he's the only one who's not an actor and everyone else around him is. And this whole thing has been choreographed and scripted and made to be an experience for him. But yeah, I mean, there were so many moments where making the show was, I had the highest highs and the lowest lows ever. Every day there'd be moments where I'm like, this is the best thing ever. This is the most exciting, most creatively fulfilling. On the way to work every morning, I'd be like, I'm doing what I'm meant to be doing. This is so exciting. And then there'd be moments where I'm like, this isn't going to work. We're going to be a failure. This is not going to work. The show is going to be about us failing to do this. It was terrifying, but thank God I had Nick there to assure me that, you know, in my moments of darkness and doubt, Nick would be there to make sure that everything was going to be okay. And I just had so much faith in Nick because of his past experience that he really knew what he was doing, and I was so grateful for that.
Well, neurosis is always at the heart of production in Hollywood, I imagine. So I don't think you were terribly different than anyone in a similar position in other shows. But at what point, Cody, did you know something kind of magical was happening with this show? I mean, was it when you found out a few 100 million people were watching it on TikTok? Or, you know, I mean,
oh, sorry.
No, go. I was just going to say, becoming a social media phenomenon, part of the zeitgeist, clearly snuck up on everyone.
I mean, that was absolutely unexpected and amazing. I would say like there were several different stages. I think while we were making the show, there was a sort of feeling of like, this is something really special and kind of, you know, magical in a way. Like everybody involved, top to bottom, every single person on that set was so critical to making this thing come together. And there was a sense of family and like, we're all trying to do this thing. We all knew in our hearts, we're not trying to make something mean. We really know we're trying to make something special and new, and that's not punching down. And that's, like you said, creating hero's journey for this guy. And I really do feel like there was sort of like a magical thing going on during the entire production. And then when we got into editing, that was a whole different thing because, you know, we have thousands of hours of all this footage and figuring out how it's all going to fit together and how it's really going to play. And I think at the end of the editing process, I was like, wow, I'm really proud of this show. I really think we made something special here. And then to have it blow up was like, it made me so happy because everyone put so much of themselves. It was so much work, emotionally, psychically, spiritually. It was so much work, and everyone had to put all of themselves into this thing. And so for it to explode like that, and for everyone to feel that love, felt very special to me and so well deserved. And I was just so happy for everyone involved.
Nick, besides Ronald, I have to believe your casting director, Susie Ferris, is the unsung hero here. She was rewarded with that Emmy nomination herself. She obviously put her heart and soul, like everyone else, Cody, into making this work. But Nick, no one who she hired broke character.
It was Susie's work is truly astonishing, and it's all the more astonishing because truly we didn't give her a huge amount to work with because of the sort of the clandestine nature of the setup of the show, and the fact that we were really going for folks who hadn't achieved a certain level of fame. And we had to keep everything below the radar. And so she was really working off morsels, and the entire approach to it was very unusual, even through the casting process, the way that we did callbacks via a focus group audition. There was a lot of faith that she had in us, that we weren't a gigantic waste of her time. And honestly, it's so satisfying and such a relief to see that she has been recognized for the quality of her work in this. And yeah, it's really an astonishing show in that I think these days it tends to be quite binary about if something is a success or a failure. It's either a thing that no one sees or other thing that everyone seemingly is talking about. And I think what's astonishing about this experience personally is that it sort of existed in both states, in my opinion. With that first week when it came out, we didn't have a tremendous amount of buzz. There weren't people talking about us all over the place, and the first 4 episodes dropped, and not too much fanfare. And then you fast forward 2 weeks later, and thanks to, I guess, TikTok, it became this huge thing, which keeps going, and it's really a good old-fashioned word of mouth story, and that's so heartwarming and lovely that anyone who sort of comes in contact with the show ends up feeling very passionate about it, and that's a lovely thing to know.
And it's so grassroots and rare
Yeah.
to have that word of mouth spread like that. Cody, it has to be a relief that not only didn't you guys crush Ronald's spirit, the renown he's emerged with through jury duty has given the man a new lease on life. I mean, it's like he's begging, come on, fool me with something again.
I mean, he's a bona fide celebrity, I would say now. And Ronald really did restore my faith in humanity while I was watching him be himself on the show and making decisions every day and doing the right thing and going above and beyond to show kindness to everyone around him. I think if anyone can stay grounded and handle suddenly becoming a celebrity, it's Ronald Gladden. So yeah, I think we all still keep in touch, the cast, Ronald, and I'm just so happy for him that he's like having the time of his life. He's loving this, and it couldn't have gone to a better dude. He's just truly such a mensch.
And I think something is, as you're making this, I think you tell yourselves as producers, truthfully, you tell yourself before you've made it, you think, well, a great end result would be that Ronald is on some sort of talk show couch, yucking it up with a presenter, and it's like, oh, okay, that's where this could go. That's a thing that could happen if we do this right, and they can have a wonderful life. And you're sort of telling yourself as you build yourself up to do the whole thing, and that's what this is about. But truthfully, you don't know. You really don't know how it's going to end up, and that's where I think the fear comes in. So to fast forward to where we are now, and to see how big a star Ronald has become, how people have taken him into their hearts across the country and actually across the world, is such a spectacular and dreamlike conclusion to this whole thing. And it's better than we could ever have hoped. And it's wonderful.
And Nick, how key was James Marsden going all in here, giving the performance of his life as this entitled Hollywood jerk? Truly, I'm so glad he got nominated for a supporting actor award, because it's so well deserved, and it's so deceptively difficult. The man had to stay in character for weeks.
James was masterful, and I cannot imagine this show without him. It just doesn't work in my mind. And he's a movie star. He is a big, famous, handsome person who does big blockbusters. And he rocked up to our dilapidated courthouse in Huntington Park with 3 days of rehearsals and said, listen, so we're going to do a 3-week live theater thing where you have to be in character the entire time. There's no fancy things. There's no drivers and trailers and all that kind of stuff. You're just going to have to be there and just live it and suck it up. And he just dove in head first, and he's just so funny and skillful and so aware of what needs to be done as well. Had such a track of Cody's storylines and where we needed to craft the whole thing and where we needed to go. And not only that, I'll say this, he was so mindful of what it was that we were actually doing with the real person. And it really became a part of our process that we were checking with James and also the rest of our fantastically talented cast, and see how they were doing and how they felt about it and how they felt about Ronald's energy and how this was going. And were we still were we still looking at that North Star of making this guy have an incredible experience? And James was truly a fundamental part of that process. And we are very thankful to him for that and just lending us his unbelievable talent, and the nomination incredibly deserved.
I know that
And
was.
just the fact, sorry, just real quick,
Go ahead, Cody.
that he was willing to, you know, like Nick was saying, he is a bona fide movie star, and the fact that he was willing to, there would be days where nothing would happen. It would just be, you know, sitting in court, boring, and he was just down for this whole thing. It was just, it speaks to truly what an incredible artist he is, and he's just so talented. His improv skills were so amazing. I mean, and that goes for the rest of the cast. This ensemble was just, I was literally every day in awe of the amount of talent that was packed into that courtroom. And it was just, it was like the most incredible thing I've ever seen. And that speaks to Susie Ferris, who's just so amazing.
And I will very quickly add, I wish there was an ensemble category for the Emmys. I know there is for other awards, and that's fantastic, and we're certainly looking forward to, you know, when that time comes, but it truly was an ensemble piece. This was a comedy troupe that came together, that trusted each other, and just sung. So I think they all really deserve every moment in the sun, because what they did was unique.
No, you're right. The SAG Awards has the ensemble, and they absolutely would be deserved here. Cody, maybe the only downside of suddenly competing with Ted Lasso and Abbott Elementary for comedy supremacy is that there are a pair of strikes going on. I know you're a member of WGA, but also a producer. Does wearing both hats at all split your loyalties?
Not at all. I am completely, I'm on the picket lines. A lot of the, we've been picketing together, a lot of the jury cast and writers. You know, I think right now, honestly, having just made this show, I think for me speaks to where we're at in this historic moment in Hollywood in so many ways. Number one, I think this show specifically could not be made by AI. I think this show is an example of something that could not possibly be made by AI. It is about humanity. It truly could not be made by a computer. And the show is about humanity and kindness. And Ronald Gladden, like I said earlier, he really did restore my faith in humanity. I think coming out of COVID, I was in a dark place, as many were, and going into this project, and then seeing this guy who just at every turn not only met our expectations of what we wanted him to do for the hero's journey, but exceeded them and would go above and beyond to, you know, take Todd under his wing and all of these things that Ronald did. He really did restore my faith in humanity. And I really hope that the AMPTP can be more like Ronald Gladden. I really hope truly that they can find their humanity and see that this, what we do as artists and storytellers, is something that is profiting them, and we deserve to be fairly compensated. And it's definitely a very strange moment to find out on the same day that we got 4 Emmy nominations and now SAG is striking. It's a whirlwind of emotions. But ultimately, the jury duty family is like a very strong family, and we're all in this fight together, and we all want to get back to work. We all want to reach a fair deal and get back to work. Like, we don't want to not be working, but we need to have a fair deal.
Yeah. Nick, everyone is probably asking you how you might be able to do a sequel using a similar concept to this. Not with a jury trial, but something else. Are those discussions really happening?
I think we're just still in a place of really enjoying the slightly miraculous run that Jury has had, and just really taking that in. And so, you know, who knows what the future holds? I'm sure there's lots of different ideas out there and different things that could be done. But right now, it's really, as I said, sort of basking in the joy of this thing, and also, of course, respecting, you know, the historic labor actions that are happening right now with 2 massive unions, and respecting what it is that they're doing by striking, and in turn respecting that we all have to put pens down, no matter what particular pen that we hold in this kind of business, and we should all respect that. So right now we're in the afterglow, and who knows what the future holds, but anything's possible.
Just before we wrap here, I just wanted to very quickly, if you could sum it up in a sentence or two, both of you, what the best part of this crazy ride has been for you both. Cody?
Honestly, I signed up for this thing because there was a part of me that was terrified that I might fail. And there was something weirdly appealing about taking that risk. And so just having gone through it and having it be not only something that worked, but then be a success, it felt so rewarding and so incredible. And making the show itself was the most fun. Like, that was the most fun part, honestly. Like, this is all great, getting the attention, it's all awesome, but when we were there in the trenches making the show, it was the best time of my life. I had the best time ever.
Nick?
This show was built to reflect, I think, our kind of worldview and our philosophy when it came to making stuff and working with people. And to know that people have received the show in the spirit in which we intended to make it has been beyond rewarding. And I think, well, it might be the most satisfying experience of my entire life. When my career is done, whenever that might be, there might never be another moment like this, when we made something with a very specific intention to create this wonderful journey for someone in the hope that it would make people laugh and make people cry and make people feel good. And to have that be the case, it feels like a gift. And I will forever be thankful for it.
Thank you. Well, we're out of time. Cody Heller and Nick Hatton, congratulations again on being part of a sensation like Jury Duty. Good luck at the Emmys on September 18th, or whenever it turns out to be. And thanks for joining us at Gold Derby.
Thank you so much.
Thank you so much.